Okay, everyone, welcome to this evening's conference with Le Cercle des Langues. Today we are going to be discussing do versus make, a complete guide. The level for today's conference is a 2, and I just want to ensure that everyone is muted. So I'm muting everyone for today's conference. The conference will be about 25 minutes. We will then have 5 minutes to have an exchange, a discussion on what we have just spoken about. So please feel free to write your questions or your comments on a piece of paper, or feel free to put them into the chat. So as we know, do versus make is the verb faire en français. And in English, it is split into 2 verbs. So today we will be looking at an introduction generally. We will then look at the general usage of do and make. We will then talk about specific activities. And finally, for number 4, we are going to look at idiomatic expressions using do or make. This conference will be sent to you via email after today or after the session. So let's have a look at the introduction to do and make. In English, do and make are 2 verbs that are sometimes used interchangeably. So that means they are used either one or the other, but they have distinct meanings and uses. Understanding when to use do and when to use make is essential for clear communication. Juste à droite, il y a la traduction en français. D'accord? So you can have a look at that if things are not too clear. As I said, please feel free to take vocabulary notes when you consider it necessary. However, you can also wait for the presentation to be sent to you. So let's look at do. Do is often used for general activities, tasks, and actions. Okay? It is associated with tasks that may not result in a tangible product. So what does that mean? If you think about it en français, c'est le verbe fabriquer. When you think of fabriquer, it's almost as if you create something. For example, when you make a cake, you are creating a cake. So we don't say in English to do a cake. We say we make a cake because you end with a product. À la fin, il y a un produit. There is a product that we have. So when there is a product that we end with, we normally use make. So that's why you can think about do as certain tasks and actions. For example, I need to do my homework. My homework, it's a task. It's a general activity. So I know that I will use the verb do. Make is generally used when creating or producing something tangible, and it implies the creation of an object or result. So again, I will say you make a cake. Vous commencez avec tous les ingrédients et après, il y a un gâteau. So you start with all of the ingredients and after you have a cake. So I make a cake. For example, I want to make a cake. So let's look at general use of the verbs. So when we start with do, the vocabulary we use is homework, les devoirs. I do my homework. I do chores, tâches ménagères around the house. I do the dishes, la vaisselle. Vaisselle, excusez-moi. Work as in a job. So, les travaux. Les travaux, excusez-moi. Best, so I do my best. I do exercise and I do sports. I do makeup or I do an assignment. I do a job. I do shopping. So, faire attention avec shopping. We need to pay attention because on peut dire I go shopping because shopping stands alone. Ça reste seul la plupart du temps. But we can say today I did the shopping. Mais c'est utilisé comme un nom. It's used like a noun in that sense. And favor. I am doing someone a favor when you help someone else. So, as I said, some of the expressions we use with do are I do my homework, she does the dishes, they did their chores yesterday, he always does his best, we should do some exercise, did you do your makeup? The teacher asked us to do our assignment. It's essential to do your job well. Let's do the shopping together. Vous pouvez voir the shopping, ça veut dire que c'est un nom, c'est pas un verbe. Can you do me a favor? D'accord? And you will see I do, you do, he or she does. Troisième personne, ça change. Il y a une ES à la fin. And did, c'est le passé simple. Okay? Alors, we are now starting with the verb make. So we know that do is like an activity or a task. So make is when we create something and there is a product at the end. Par exemple, I make a sandwich. I make a cake. I make a decision. I make a plan. I make a suggestion. I make, attendez 2 secondes. Alors, I make a plan, I make a suggestion, I make a reservation, I make breakfast, I make a phone call, I make time to do something, and I make a choice. D'accord? So, after that, we are going to look at all of the different things. So now we are moving on to the expressions with make. Quelques expressions. I make a sandwich. She makes a cake. They made a decision. Let's make a plan. He made a suggestion. Can you make a reservation? She always makes breakfast. He wants to make a phone call. We should make time for family. I need to make a choice. So, for a small summary, un petit résumé, we know do is action, tâche ménagère, so tasks, and when we do, so make is more fabriquer, when we create something and there is an end product. So now let's look at specific activities. So activities with do, things you can use, do. Yoga, reports, you do reports, but parfois you make the report because when you do the report, it's the physical activity of doing the report. But when you make it, you are creating it. So, parfois, vous pouvez utiliser tous les deux. You research, you do research. You do a test. You do some cleaning. You do some laundry. You do some gardening. You do some volunteer work. you do a presentation, and you do your hair. So here we've got some examples that we can use. I do yoga every Sunday. He does his reports in the morning. We did the English test together. She does her research in the lab. They do the cleaning every weekend. Did you do your laundry? Let's do some gardening together. He often does volunteer work. We should do a presentation. Did she do her hair this morning? Et vous pouvez voir, en fait, il y a deux fois. We use did twice in the last sentence because remember, do is also used as an auxiliary. C'est un auxiliaire. So when it is an auxiliary, we also can use it as the main verb in a phrase. Activities with make. You make a drawing. You make a plan. You make a suggestion. You make lunch. You make a list. You make a cake. You make a reservation. You make handmade gifts. You make a decision. And you make a difference. D'accord? So we have some example sentences. She makes a drawing. They made... Okay, sorry, but je vais regarder. Je vais regarder dans le chat après, d'accord? Et je vais re-expliquer des choses pour vous, d'accord? Pour l'instant, c'est juste la présentation. Après, je vais regarder pour vous. So it says all the things when we have a look at make. She made... let's make a list of ideas. She made a beautiful cake for the party. We can make a reservation for dinner. He often makes handmade gifts. Can you make a decision? I want to make a difference. Donc, je vais prendre 2 secondes juste pour regarder. I didn't understand the difference between do and make a report. Ok. Je vais expliquer tout de suite. When you say, I do a report, I do a report, c'est la action. As I explained, do is the physical action. Whereas make, c'est presque comme fabriquer. When you make something, you create it. And there is an end product. So right now, I take my paper and I take a pen and I write. So I'm doing the report because I am physically doing the action of writing. J'ai écrire. Donc, c'est une action. Mais, when I make the report, j'ai fabriqué aussi because I am creating the report and in the end, it will be a final product. Il y aura un produit final. There'll be an end product. That's why we can use do and make parce que c'est la action que j'ai fait pour la produit final. D'accord? Est-ce que c'est un peu plus clair pour vous? Vous pouvez me dire, Janceline. Donc, I will, my pleasure. Je vais continuer. So, these are the example sentences. So now we have an exercise. I would like you to put into the chat 2 examples of activities using do and 2 examples of activity using make in the chat. Donc, if you want to, you can write 1. Like that, we can read it. So, I will give you 1 minute. Je vais vous donner 1 minute, juste pour écrire une phrase avec do et une phrase avec make, s'il vous plaît. He does a good job. Thank you, Jan-Celine. Absolutely. He does a good job. And now, an example with make. Qu'est-ce que vous pensez, Jan-Celine? I do the homework. Thank you, Marie-Reine. I do the dinner. So, I make a cake. I do the dinner. I make a cake. I do the dinner. She made a surprise for her birthday. I made a beautiful dress for my daughter. Très bien. So it's for my daughter. We just have one. Montaldo, I do the dinner. So, je voudrais que vous imaginez que vous fabriquez en fait. You are creating your dinner, même si c'est pas le bon verbe. I would like you to imagine that when we create dinner, we start cutting the vegetables, we start mixing the sauce. So, en fait, we create it. And because we create the dinner, et à la fin, il y a un produit, there is a product at the end, we make dinner. D'accord? We don't do dinner. I try to do sport every week. Patrice, merci. I make a sauce for my meat. Parfait. Beautiful. I make a plan for the weekend. Beautiful. So this is the difference. C'est la différence entre les deux. Sometimes there are idiomatic expressions that we use with do or make. Ah, Christine, vous avez mis, he makes noise. I do something. Parfait. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Donc, so now when we look at idiomatic expressions with do, I did my best. So, c'est quand vous faites le meilleur possible, le mieux possible, vous dites, I did my best. Let's do a favor for them. Let's do a favor. She always does the talking. Ça veut dire que toujours elle parle. Elle parle le plupart du temps. So when they say she does the talking, in a situation, c'est une autre personne qui parle. Toujours. He did a great job. We should do a good deed. When we say we should do a good deed, c'est un acte. So do a good act. Can you do me a favor? Est-ce que vous pouvez faire quelque chose pour moi? Mais en français, when we say do a favor, c'est rendre un service ou faire une faveur. Peut-être pas le même sens, mais peut-être c'est le même sens. They did everything they could. Ils ont fait ce qu'ils pourraient. I need to do some soul searching. She does her part in every project. He often does volunteer work. Idiomatic expressions with make. I will make an effort. Je vais faire un effort. They made a promise. She makes a difference. Let's make amends. And when we talk about amends, en français, le mot c'est amends, c'est modifier ou amender ou corriger. He made a suggestion. We should make the most of this opportunity. She always makes time for her family. He made a contribution. I want to make a point. We need to make a decision. So these are the expressions that exist in English that help us express a bigger idea, une idée un peu plus grande. So, in conclusion, to sum up, do is typically used for general activities or tasks. Vous pouvez imaginer que c'est une action, like homework or chores. Chores, n'oubliez pas, c'est les tâches ménagères. Meanwhile, make is employed when creating or producing something tangible. Tangible, c'est vraiment quelque chose que vous pouvez toucher. D'accord? That makes it tangible. Such as drawings or cakes. Idiomatic expressions enrich our understanding. For example, we do our best and we make an effort. So practicing these verbs to enhance your language skills. So you can practice these verbs. So for this conference tonight, there is no e-learning module, article from le Cercle des Langues blog, or a YouTube video or other content. Mais il y a un exercice sur la plateforme, mais c'est pour le niveau B1. La différence entre do and make. Mais vous pouvez essayer. Si c'est trop difficile, ce n'est pas grave. We can just look at how we use it. La différence entre les deux. Alors, so I would like to thank everybody for watching this conference with me or participating in the conference with me this evening. Est-ce que vous avez des questions? Do you have any questions or is it clear? If you would like to, I think you can unmute your microphones now. It's okay for me. Thank you, Elodie. Thank you, Montaldo. It's clear. So as we say, for a small resume, do, it's actions, it's tasks and activities. When we talk about make, it's close to creating something, creating something and using ingredients, for example, to make dinner. And there is a product at the end. Okay? So if you have any questions, feel free. We are here to help at Le Cercle des Langues. And I would like to thank everyone for joining us for this conference this evening. I will see you in the next conference. Goodbye, everyone.